Hey, everybody, welcome to the next episode of Community Driven. I am your host, Kevin Strosnider, coming to you live from our grand studios at 5200 Oaklawn Boulevard in North Prince George. And I have a special guest with me today, Miss Tonya Humphrey. And Tonya is with Prince George County Schools, works with the Gifted program there, and she's going to tell you a little bit more. But thank you so much for being here. Glad to have you with us today. And so if you would start off, Tonya, just tell our viewers a little bit about you and your background in the schools.
All right, well, I am a 30-year veteran of Moore Middle School. I've been at the same school my entire career. I started off teaching 6th grade science and am currently the gifted resource teacher for the building.
Okay, 30 years.
Yes.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. So I did 8 years.
Right.
8 years in 8th grade math, and
I
30,
love teaching
30
science,
years.
but I love my gifted students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that program. So 30 years. Now, are you from Prince George?
I am actually. I
From
went
Prince
through
George?
K through 12 in Prince George County.
Okay, awesome.
Then came right back to teach. So.
Okay. And you you said you've always been at Moore.
Started over at the old Moore.
At the old Moore, man. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yes.
Feels like it's a long time ago at
I think
least.
I'm one of just a handful left that walked in our new building day one.
Now,
And I say new loosely.
Yeah.
But
How long have you been doing the Gifted program?
I've probably been doing Gifted for about 15 years.
Okay, so 15 years in science and 15
yes.
years with the Gifted program. And you were a graduate of Longwood, is that correct?
I am.
Graduate of Longwood and William and Mary?
Just graduated last year from William and
Oh,
Mary
okay,
with my
just
master's.
last year. Okay, I didn't realize it was that soon.
Yeah.
I'm also a graduate of Longwood, so we got that in common.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do with the gifted students in the Gifted program.
So I'm a big person. My nickname around the building is the Field Trip Queen.
Okay.
Because I'm a big field experience person. I think you learn more by going out and doing than you do by
100%.
sitting in the classroom.
Absolutely.
And I find that our students who don't have those opportunities, they don't have the little hooks in their brain to make connections with events and people and the rest of the world. So I like to take my students on a lot of experiences. I do a lot of trips and overnight trips. I'm the crazy person that spends the night with middle schoolers. So we do a Chesapeake Bay Foundation trip where we go out onto an island classroom and we spend 3 days, 2 nights out there. They're in the marsh. They are learning how to bake crab pots. They are talking to the islanders of Smith Island or Tangier.
Oh, wow.
I've also done World Strides trips and taken kids to Alaska, to San Francisco, trying to get to Hawaii next year with a group of kids.
That'd be cool.
So I love all of those opportunities
Yeah.
to watch the kids learn something new and to experience something different.
Absolutely. I'm a kinesthetic learner. That's how I learn, by touching and doing and feeling and movement. I am not a sit in a classroom.
Well, when
type
we're
of
on
learner.
that island, they almost don't feel like they're in school.
Yeah.
They don't believe they're in school. They think they're
absolutely.
on a vacation or something. But they're learning the entire time.
Absolutely.
They're out there.
Absolutely. Do you remember Miss Knoll?
I do.
From the high school.
I
So
do.
when I
She
went
was one of my
through-
favorite science
Oh
teachers.
yeah, I love Miss Knoll, and
Uh-huh.
I was part of the stream team, and those are my absolute favorite. That was my favorite club because we went out and we did the testing on the streams,
Right.
and we picked up the trash, and we would go through the marshes like
Yeah.
you said, and do the canoe and kayak trips, and so much fun. And you're constantly learning while doing.
Yes.
It is,
Absolutely.
That's
And then
that's
you've
cool.
got those connections when you move into a different type of classroom or into another experience in your life. You can make those connections back to what you did.
So tell us a little bit about the Gifted program. What does that look like? Like the students, how do they get into that program? Those types of things.
So for our Gifted program, we're looking for students who score on an ability test in the 95th percentile.
Okay.
So those students that need something a little more, I kind of consider it a special education. It's kind of the opposite of what you think of with special education, where those are students who might need extra supports because they need help reading or writing or things like that. Well, my students need that extra something, because where an average student might need 4 or 5 repetitions to get something, my students have it after one. So they just need that extra enrichment. They need that extra opportunity to create on their own, to ask the questions rather than just answer questions. And so one of the things we do at the high school level that I just started this year, we had the program years ago, and the teacher who was doing it left and went to another school system, and we hadn't started it up since until this year. And I was lucky enough to have 2 students, including Anna's, who did independent study. So it's an opportunity. I always tell them they have, you know, in school they're told what they have to learn. Virginia sets the SOLs and says, you have to do this, 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 and this in math, science, social studies, whatever. Independent study, they get the opportunity to pick what they want to learn about. So one student focused on music and the other student focused on economics, and they basically ran their own learning. They decided what they wanted to learn about. They did all of the research and wrote, because they were writing about what they wanted to write about, one of them was a 22-page paper.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, because they were excited about what they were doing. And then they completed a project around that. I do a mini version of that with my 7th graders. We call it a passion project, and they get to decide what they want to learn about. And my favorite thing is when they get to tell me all about the mistakes that they made, the things that went wrong with their project.
You know, the really cool thing about mistakes is, I think, unfortunately, and I look back as my career as a teacher, when I, you know, like I said, 8 years of being a math teacher. And in math, you think of the idea of math as just, you have a certain formula for how you do problems, but there's still a lot of trial and error within math. And I think one of the things where if I look back, and if I could go back and be a math teacher again, I would celebrate the mistakes of the children more, because the mistakes are where you learn. You don't learn when you do things right.
Exactly, and that's what I constantly tell them. You learn more from your failures, from your mistakes, than you do your successes.
Absolutely.
And I have a whole bulletin board in my room about having a growth mindset. Realizing that you don't always know everything, and you can always get better at something.
That's awesome. 100%. You know that these kids, they need that freedom to make mistakes, freedom to try things and find out if, you know, this works or if this doesn't work. And one of my favorite lines from a movie, it actually comes from a movie called Amazing Grace. Have you ever heard of it? And these gentlemen were trying to eradicate slavery in England. And they were trying all sorts of different things, and one of the people in Parliament said, you can't do that. And the William Wilberforce, I can't say his name, he says, well, I'm just too young and dumb to know I can't.
Right, there you go.
And that's what made him be able to actually to get to the point where he could do that. He could eradicate slavery, because he was too young and dumb to know that it was that you couldn't do it. And so these kids, I think sometimes we get in the way by, we tell them, this is what you have to do, and this is what you, instead of letting them figure out what they can and cannot do. And sometimes they teach us by figuring out what they can and cannot do.
Sometimes I think, especially with our gifted kids who are so stressed on, I got to make the A's because I got to get into AP and dual enrollment and all of that, that sometimes they lose that sense of creativity. And, you know, I've talked to several about being that academic risk taker. And that's why in my class, my PACE class, I tell them, you know, they're not going to fail my class because they make a mistake or they fail in what they attempted to do, because it's the attempt that matters. It's the trial and error and the trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. We do an egg drop. My 6th graders love doing the egg drop every year. And you know, there have been so many eggs splattered on my floor, you know, but then they just learn what not to do. So
well, that goes back to was it Thomas Edison.
Right.
You know, I didn't fail however many 2,000 times or whatever he said.
Right.
I figured out 2,000 ways
Not
not
to
to
do it.
create,
Exactly.
you know, and it's so true. It's I love that you're encouraging them to find ways.
Right.
To
try something
try
different.
something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, what's your favorite thing that you do with your students? The favorite activity or field trip or?
Oh gosh, I like a lot of it.
Uh-huh.
I have several activities that I push into other classes with that I love doing, but my favorite's probably got to be the CBF trips, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation trips. Yeah. I've been so often that on Smith Island we've made a connection with the people that live on the island, and I always try to go to Tylerton, which is a part of Smith Island. In fact, if you look up Mary Ada Marshall, she is she is the reason that Smith Island dessert, or the Smith Island cake, is the state dessert of Maryland. It's because of her, so she's kind of famous.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I'm very good friends, very close with her, and she'll come and talk to my kids and make them cakes. And
oh, that's neat.
stuff. Yeah.
That's
so it's
neat.
kind of neat to have made those connections on the island with the people that live there.
Yeah.
And the best sunsets in the world are on that island.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
And just watching the kids, you know, out in the marsh or baiting crab pots or looking through the grass beds, you know, to find little critters. And occasionally we get lucky and find a seahorse. That's really amazing.
Cool. That's cool.
You know, and then watching them make those connections when we get back and we talk about it. So that's probably one of my most favorite things is doing that one.
Yeah. So what? 30 years. You've been doing it for 30 years. Yeah. What gets you out of bed in the morning to keep on going?
Oh goodness. I don't know. Just watching the light bulb go on with these kids. You know, when there's something exciting going on. You know, I'm also in charge of our honors night, and I've just taken on Beta Club sponsors. So the last 2 weeks have been focused around those ceremonies. We just had our honors night ceremony last week where we honor those kids who've made straight A's all year long. And then tomorrow will be our Beta Club induction where we are inducting 67 new members into the Junior Beta Club. And then we also have a memorial ceremony every year. And so I'm working on that one as well. So I kind of have all those extra responsibilities as well.
Just keeps driving you forward.
Yeah.
How many students do you work with on a yearly basis?
About 100.
About 100. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's
overall between our PACE program and our SOAR program.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those of us who don't know PACE and SOAR, explain those.
Okay, so PACE is a permanent program where they are considered all around academically gifted students, and they'll stay in that program until they graduate. The SOAR program is where there's something there. You know, teachers are noticing something. The scores on their ability test are close to what we're looking for, but not quite there. So it's kind of a probationary program. It's temporary, and they get reevaluated at the end of the year.
Okay. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
And there's a whole process involved in doing that.
Yeah. How many more years do you have?
I'm gonna try for 3 and hit 33, and then it'll be a year at a time after that.
Then you'll see. Then you'll see. Yeah. We my wife and I taught. Well, my wife taught 2nd grade, and I taught 8th grade. And my wife taught with a lady. We taught in Buckingham County.
Okay.
And we taught with a lady, and she was going to retire for about 10 years straight. It was at the end of the year. I think I'll just do one more year. But it's
nice when you get to that point.
Yeah, she got to the point where she could.
Right, exactly, where you could say, okay, one more year.
Yeah.
It'll be at least 3, and then who knows?
Yeah. So, in retirement, if you ever do retire, what do you see yourself doing? Do you see yourself staying in an educational field?
Yeah, what I'd really love to do is run a program at a museum, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Either run a program at a museum or, I was hoping, I actually was looking at the new Lego plant. I was like, they need an education coordinator over there to run students through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to do a program like that.
That's cool.
Or maybe work for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation.
That sounds like a passion.
Yeah.
Of yours. Chesapeake Bay.
I definitely won't really retire.
Yeah.
It might be something different.
Trust me, I understand that too. Sounds like Chesapeake Bay is, it is a treasure in our area, and it's a passion of yours. What is it about the Chesapeake Bay and Chesapeake Bay Foundation? What is it that really drew you to that?
Their educators are phenomenal. Every educator I've worked with, it's usually, kids who are in their 20s who are the educators out on the island, because they actually live on the island with the community there, and they stay there and they run the programs, and every one of them has been just absolutely wonderful. I've become friends with other employees from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation that just share a similar, they just love the Bay, and they want to help, and they want to teach kids. And they're just phenomenal. I'm also a TEL mentor for them. TEL stands for Teacher Environmental Literacy Leader. And so we run programs in the summer for teachers, and teachers who maybe can't go out and spend, 2 nights with these middle school kids like I do, or you've got younger kids at elementary that can't do those overnight trips. How can they use their schoolyard to provide a MIWE, which stands for Meaningful Watershed Educational Experience, with their students. At one point, it was a mandate from the governor that students have a MIWE in elementary, middle, and high school, so at least 3 throughout their school career. So how can you use your school grounds in order to provide that for your students? And at Moore, we're pretty lucky. My predecessor helped to put in a really beautiful nature trail out back of our building, so we use our nature trail. And we also have our memorial garden. I talked about our memorial ceremony, and we have a beautiful memorial garden, which is kind of neat because the kids do love to take care of it. And I can guarantee if their parents asked them to go pull weeds, they would get a big fight on their hand. But when we ask them to do it and tell them why, it's our garden, those kids go out there and they're pulling weeds, and within many hands make light work. And when you get 20 kids out there, you can pull bagfuls of weeds in just a matter of minutes. And so they've been going out the last couple of weeks since our ceremony's coming up, which our memorial garden is there in memory of a former JEJ Moore student who I actually taught the very first year I taught, Jesse Osbat, who was killed in Afghanistan in 2012.
Wow.
So, and what started as let's plant a tree for Jesse turned into a beautiful garden, and then turned into a beautiful ceremony that we hold every year.
Wow. Okay.
And that's another reason I've said that ceremony will stay as long as I'm in that building.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Note to my wife, we just need to make our flower beds memorial gardens, and our kids will be all excited about
to go pull weeds. No, they really do. The kids do a good job.
No,
when
that's
we go
awesome.
Out and they,
that's awesome.
Take
tell us, this is you kind of opened up a door there, so tell us a little bit about this this gentleman. I don't recall the name, even though I've been from this area.
Right. So Jesse was a student of mine in 6th grade. The very first year I taught
Which was what year?
In 1995, over at the Old Moore. And then he went on to graduate from our high school. He went to VSU, and then he joined our military. In 2012, he was serving in Afghanistan, and his younger brother, was actually a 6th grade student along with my son.
Oh, wow.
They graduated together at Moore when the news came that he had been killed with an IED. So those of us that were at Moore, and his mom actually also works for the county. She works in Beasley. So we had a strong connection to the family, and with Elijah also being in the building at the time. He had a lot of teachers that, of course, and I'm going to cry.
I'm sorry.
But, get very emotional.
Yeah.
But, and so the following year, I think, is when we started our ceremony, and it's just grown since then. We try to include as many students as we can.
Yeah.
We have a student that plays taps every year.
Wow.
We have our choir and our band will perform. We've instituted a Memorial Day poetry contest where each one, I don't know if you know about middle school, but we have team pods, kind of. So each team will have a winning poem, and then we'll have a winner for the school. And that's the school winner, their poem will be read during the ceremony. and we read the list of the fallen from Prince George County from World Wars One to Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, of which I have a great uncle on that list.
Oh, wow.
He was killed in World War II. He had been married to one of my grandmother's sisters. Of course, I never knew him, but he's on that list as well. And it's just a very moving ceremony. We have a teacher who just retired last year who's former military, and he would always place the last flag for Jesse. And he's actually coming back to do the ceremony again this year,
wow.
even though he retired. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
You know, it's. I remember this as a teacher, and I can tell it from this story. When you're in the school with these students, you take on more than just a teacher role.
Yes.
They become your kids.
Right, and I say that all the time when I go home. My husband just rolls his eyes at me because they're my kids.
Yes.
And they're always going to be my kids. 10 years later, they're still my kids.
Yeah.
So.
It's neat. I've even been here. I've been away for almost 11 years now, and I still have some students that will come through and buy a car from us that I taught back in 8th grade years and years ago, or sometimes they'll just be passing through the area and they'll stop in just to say hi, and it is in that time period too, that 6th to 8th grade time period is such an influential time in their life. They're trying to figure themselves out and who they are, and they're growing up and they're going through all these changes in their lives, and to have people there in those times that truly care for them means the world to them.
Yeah.
So.
Although sometimes I feel like being middle school teachers, we're kind of in that hole. They all remember their elementary teachers, and they're still close with their high school teachers who help them get into colleges and stuff. And we kind of get forgotten.
We do sometimes, yeah.
But there's nothing better than getting an email from a kid you had 5 years ago, or getting a little note or a letter. That they remember something. I have one who is currently at Appomattox Regional. I think he'll be a senior next year. And last year, all of a sudden, publications, he had things published in, appeared at my desk. And,
that's awesome.
it was just, and I loved it. It was just amazing to get.
That's awesome.
So when they do remember us, just a little email or something like that, don't think we've forgotten them, because we haven't.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So.
That's awesome. Well, Tonya, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you and learning a little bit about what you do, and I can tell your passion for the kids. That's a great thing. We're gonna wrap up. I got 3 quick questions, not too hard, and then we'll wrap things up. So I always ask these same 3 questions at the end of every interview that I do.
I should have watched some of
So
those.
it's all right. The first one is I'm always trying to grow. You talked about having a growth mindset within your classroom. I'm always trying to grow as a person, as a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a Christian, as all these different ways. I'm trying to grow and make myself a better person. And I read a lot. I do a lot of, anymore I don't read, I listen a lot. I do, because I just don't have time to read as much, but I do a lot of books on audio. And I'll do some podcasts and different things, but things that have affected my life. Books have affected my life in ways that I didn't realize they would when I was in school. Is there something, either a book or a mentor or something that has had a massive impact on your life, is the first thing that you think of that has been one of the biggest impacts on your life?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think mentor-wise, my predecessor, Holly Boyd, really made me want to be a gifted resource teacher. So, and I looked up to her a lot, and we had a lot of good conversations that helped to make me the teacher I am now.
Okay. What was it about her that made you want to follow in those footsteps?
Her enthusiasm and her ability to get things done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. The impact that others have on us, sometimes they don't even realize it.
Right.
I was talking with somebody just earlier today about that sometimes being a leader is not a position. It's not a title. It's how you carry yourself.
Right.
And so sometimes that that leadership is just the person saying the right thing or being the right type of person for you to observe and for you to model yourself after.
Right.
You know, at some point in your life. So that's cool. Sounds like she was a special person to follow. Well, cool. So second thing, if you had, let's just say you had all this area, you had all of Prince George, not just Prince George, Hopewell, Petersburg, Dinwiddie, Colonial Heights, Surrey, Sussex, Charles City, Verina, Chester, Matoaka, all this area looking at Tonya, and they were cheering for Tonya, and you had 2 minutes to impart wisdom to them. What would you say?
I think the biggest thing is just be a lifelong learner. Never stop learning. You know, like I said, I just finished my master's at 50 years old. So, you know, you just never stop being a lifelong learner. Never stop being enthusiastic about what's around you, and you know, stop every now and then and enjoy nature.
Yeah.
You know, that Chesapeake Bay, you know, that's a beautiful thing, and we don't want to see that go away.
Absolutely. Last question. This is the toughest one.
Oh gosh.
All right, the other two were easy. This is the toughest one. What is your all-time favorite dream vehicle?
Oh, gosh.
And it doesn't have to be a Chevrolet. It's okay.
I don't know. Well, this is going to sound, I've always wanted a little punch bug, a
A
little
little,
Volkswagen
okay,
Beetle.
yeah. That's funny. One of the old ones?
Yes.
That you could actually punch somebody over? Yeah. That's funny.
Little Beetles.
We have friends now that their kids, whenever they see a Tesla, they do Tesla, they punch each other. It's funny. That's funny. Yeah, those were neat.
Yeah.
Were neat. I asked.
It's just so cute.
They were definitely iconic vehicles.
Yes.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Growing up. Well, cool. Well, Tonya, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all you do for our community and for the kids and the future of our area. Not just the future of our area, but wherever these kids go.
Right.
You are pouring into them, so you're pouring into our future. So it means a lot to us. So thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
right. Very, very nice to meet you. Thank
Nice
you.
to meet
So, I almost forgot. We do have just a little gift from us to
thank
you. Just a little thank you
you.
for being here with us today. We're so thankful for you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving us your time and attention. And please continue to support Tonya and the other teachers who dedicate their lives to supporting these students, to pouring into these students, to give them the opportunity for a future. So we're so thankful for Tonya, for all the teachers, not just in Prince George and all the surrounding areas. So thankful for them. Thank you for being a part of this, and we'll see you next time on Community.